Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Daily High with your host, Matt McGregor and the Tone Vase. Good morning, Tone. How are you, mate?
Morning. I'm good. Been growing out the beard. It's been about a week since the fast ended. I feel great. I did a couple of shows on Knots versus Bitcoin. And get ready. Another battle. It's 2017 all over again. Here we go.
Yeah, while you've been making enemies all across the world, I've been skiing in Korea and it was absolutely brilliant. I was saying, after we finished skiing, we stayed in Hongdae, which is like a really fancy area of South Korea, and it snowed like a blizzard snow one night. Have you ever been in a blizzard that had no wind, that was just like soft, like a foot of soft, pure powder throughout the streets? It was absolutely gorgeous. Great times, but I'm back now, back at the helm. Tone, what have I missed in Bitcoin, mate? I've been out of the loop. Looks
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, it's El Salvador events coming up. I've been the series of Knots versus Bitcoin on my personal channel with Jimmy Song as co-host has raged on. El Salvador just replaced Adam Back on a panel with me, and I will be on a panel debating Luke Dash and Mechanic. And at this point, I'm pretty convinced that Knots is an attack on Bitcoin. And this is why they basically put me on the panel. My presentation in El Salvador will try and explain why Knots is an attack on Bitcoin. And
Cool, a question without notice, but are you and Mechanic no longer friends?
I don't know. Look, I'm here providing my opinion on the situation because not only is it my opinion on the situation in Bitcoin, it reflects how I view the Bitcoin price. And I can't analyze the Bitcoin price if I don't understand how the Bitcoin protocol is navigating through the world. And because I've now interviewed people from both sides, from the Knots camp and from the what's the problem with current Bitcoin camp, I don't want to say core camp, actually, because it's not. Most people that we had on the show, they're not pro-core. They're just anti-Knots. And being anti-Knots does not make you pro-core. The Knots side will want you to believe that you're pro-core by not wanting a fork in Bitcoin. And I think this has massive ramifications and massive effects on the price of Bitcoin. This now explains to me why Bitcoin has decorrelated from the stock market, and perhaps why gold and silver have continued to go up, and confidence in Bitcoin is very weak versus confidence in gold and silver remains very strong. Now, there is
I mentioned this. What was the big event that happened like 3 months ago, 4 months ago? And I mentioned that I sent you an article that a friend of mine sent me, saying that this is going to crash the price of Bitcoin, this core knots thing. And we weren't convinced it was, but it's been pretty correlated to the top of the market so far. I've got the article here. I'll send it.
The Knots camp would want you to believe that the release of Core 30
that was it,
timed the top of the market, and that confidence in Bitcoin is shattered because of the changes that Core V30 did. But the changes that Core V30 did are irrelevant in terms of the price of Bitcoin. And they're also irrelevant in terms of confidence in Bitcoin because most people don't even know what Core is. Most investors that are buying Bitcoin don't know what Core is. They don't want to know. They don't care, like yourself, for example. They don't care who's coding the protocol. They only care that there is stability in the protocol. And to me, the price top correlates with the Knots movement to create instability in Bitcoin's development. And when there is instability in core development, there is concerns over the future of Bitcoin. And when there are concerns over an asset, any asset, it doesn't matter what that asset is. Once the concerns stop to creep in, buying slows down. And when buying slows down, prices fall. You don't need to sell for prices to fall. Buying just needs to slow down. And that buying has gone elsewhere. S&P, gold, silver, whatever. And to me, this controversy over what most people, the vast majority of people, couldn't care less about op return. And but the small minority of people that think op return is going to destroy Bitcoin are creating doubt in investors. And I don't see, that's how I see it as a price analyst of Bitcoin. And even if NOTS programmers disagree, it doesn't matter that they disagree with my analytical financial assessment of Bitcoin speculation.
Yeah, I wish they would all go fuck themselves and leave it alone, because this Bitcoin, and we don't need any too many hands in the pie. Let's go into the charts. I'll go first quite quickly. I was away all last week, and I'm excited to bring you my thoughts on the price action. Anything core not related is well above my pay grade. Look, last week was a terrible week, which, coming off what we were looking at as like a really positive week when we were, right up there at 98,000, 99,000. It was positive. It was positive. I was in a trade that got out at break even. I remember on the show like a week ago, I was in the trade still at that point. We had just had a crash in the market, and I was like, well, we've bounced. I'm still in the trade, but I'm not. And I was in profit in the trade. I said, but I'm not holding this position back below my entry price again. Thank God I didn't, because it was a huge position. And I think my entry price was like 94 or something. It's a while back. I forget trades as soon as I finish them, start on with the next. And the prices continue to cascade. This is a very bad weekly close. And obviously this should be a green candle. It's just a bad glitch. But rallying back up to such a 7 simple moving average makes a lot of sense. But look, I just revert back to the old principle of, I still think, now that the rally has faded, a green diamond, a weekly green diamond, is imminent. I still think that this can't hold anymore. And I'm happy to be wrong. The happiest man in the world to be wrong. But for me, this is not going to hold. It's going to fall. And somewhere, who knows where, I'm not predicting a target, we'll get a weekly green diamond, and it'll be a fantastic place to plant a flag in the ground. I'll put a few 100,000 in on Bitcoin and then just go on holidays. Wait, because I think that's a really good opportunity. Some of the oscillators, the Copic curve looked like it was rounding, but look, we never get excited about the Copic curve until it passes the zero line. It's far from that. So that's a real late lagging indicator. The RSI, sorry, it's really hard to click on all this stuff, even on my computer. RSI, it's back to looking like it's going to have another leg down, and we're going to get into the oversold range, which I would be really happy to do it. The EXA, this is an interesting one. Socrates' EXA, we had that cross, and I was never satisfied with that cross. I didn't think it was low enough, but it has actually crossed again negative here. And we're early in the week. Price can rally, and this can recross back over. But I never was really. I ignored that, and to my detriment, I ignored that. I thought that cross came in probably on one of these candles back on the the 1st or the 8th of December. It looked quite good in hindsight, but it wasn't like a blow off bottom for me to get back in on it, and I missed it. And it seems like it doesn't matter. And the MACD2, it looked like it was rounding 2 weeks ago, but it's back down. This is all good stuff, really, I think, in the long term for Bitcoin, I think that there's just a great opportunity to get in at a better price. Or alternatively, I wouldn't touch Bitcoin really until we break the modified losers SAR. And this is dropping like a stone, which is terrific as well. It might be that in 3 weeks we get back in at 90,000 and I go 100% long at 90,000, but it's had more time to just sort of meander, and that might satisfy that criteria. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. The daily time frame. Oh, we should look at the monthly. Oh, we've got a few more days left in this month. Yeah, so we wind that up. This is the daily. Look, this is what I would think that most people are going to short from here. Look at that rally that we had on the day with the first 12 hours of the day, just back to the 7 simple moving average. The fact that we dropped so low below the 7 simple, now come back, touch it to the dollar. I think throughout this day, this will fade back down and probably be a red candle on the day. That's if my money is to the downside right now. If I had to pick a heads or tails flip, it would definitely be to the downside. Same thing on the 4-hour time frame. We had a green diamond at the low, but like I never touch green diamonds when they're in the red wave. I only touch them when they're in the green wave. But look, we've come all the way down, and we had a rally to no more than the 30 simple moving average as it stands right now. I'm not looking at trying to chase this. I think that that'll fade and roll over. Once again, Tone Bays, I'm coming back to you in the studio. Before I do, I'll tell you more about what I'm doing later. I've been trading up a storm and absolutely making bank on another project that I'm going to bring to you very shortly. I've been making like $1,000 a day trading by myself with my new system, which is coming soon. Tone, please like and subscribe, guys. Share it with your friends. Get inside that Discord group if you want to hear more about the trading that I've been doing and the opportunity that I'm offering to you guys who are inside that group, which is, there'll be a QR code in the corner, links in the description below. Definitely get on board that. Tone, what do you see in my brother? Are we good? We going to hold that line I put in at the lows? Shit, don't think so. Your mic's off.
Sorry, I said I don't think so, man.
Yeah, I can read you like a book, Tone. I don't think you were very positive about it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out. I mean, they released something the other day, and signaling for the temporary soft fork, as they're doing all this insanity, has started, and I'm pretty sure it would correlate directly with the big drop 2 days ago as we were doing those shows. And it's right now we're rallying, and I'm really trying to find I want to make some charts that would correlate support for knots with the price of Bitcoin, because I suspect that as support for knots picks up, the price of Bitcoin will drop. And as support for knots declines, the price of Bitcoin would rise. Now, this was very similar to what happens to the stock market going into an election. I don't know if you remember, but back in especially in 2016, going into the first Trump election, every time Trump would go up in the polls, the market would crash. And every time Hillary would go up in the polls, the market would rise, because the people were scared of Trump because he was unpredictable. Like, what do you mean Trump is going to be president? The guy from the game show, the guy that's not a politician, the crazy racist. So it didn't matter. And I kept saying, by the way, those shows of me covering the correlation of the stock market with the Hillary-Trump election is what caught the attention of Tyler Jenks, and how Tyler Jenks eventually reached out, because I was trying to explain that it was very strange that the stock market would crash on Trump's rise in the polls, where Trump is the capitalist that should be good for the markets.
But
right?
she's the incumbent. Do you know, like their party is the incumbent. No?
Right. And the reason why that is happening is because the market speculators would rather have stability. They would rather have Hillary Clinton as president, who is a Democrat, which is more taxes, less capitalism, versus a straight up capitalist and business owner, because she represented the status quo. She represented the stability.
It's the
Okay?
it's the old devil you know, right?
Correct, right? And while it is possible, it is absolutely possible that if the Knots soft fork actually succeeds and constrains relay policy, and everything in BIP 110 succeeds, and in the long run, that might be good for Bitcoin. I don't know. I remain of the belief that the Knots fork succeeding is actually bad for Bitcoin in the long run. However, it's very possible that I'm wrong in that view. It's possible. I'm going to admit I could be wrong. Maybe Knots winning is good for Bitcoin in the long run. But I will not say that I'm wrong that Knots winning in the short term is good for Bitcoin, because it removes the status quo. And anytime you remove the status quo, people panic. Speculators panic. This is something that most people promoting the not soft fork, most people, if not all people, coding the not soft fork, which is probably like 1 to 2 people anyway, they don't see this dynamic. They don't care about this dynamic. They don't believe in this dynamic, because to them, speculating and trading of Bitcoin is not a use case of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
To them, it doesn't matter what the price of Bitcoin is. I mean, I think they're lying when they say that, but to them, say, well, the price of Bitcoin doesn't matter. Technically, the price of Bitcoin doesn't matter if you don't have any Bitcoin, right? Like, the price of Bitcoin doesn't matter to a person working in McDonald's that has no interest in buying Bitcoin. The price doesn't matter at all, right? So yes, if you are in the Bitcoin space and you have $200 to $300 worth of Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin does not matter to you, right? But if you are, a businessman who relies on Bitcoin, if you hold a lot of Bitcoin and now living off of Bitcoin, if you have, if you want to start some businesses because it's time for you to diversify that Bitcoin, or you depending on an income that scales with the price of Bitcoin rising, the price of Bitcoin matters to that person quite a bit. And there is a lot of these people now because the price of Bitcoin has gone so high.
Have you ever met
Dynamic.
have you ever met a very well-adjusted, very successful entrepreneur who's also like a lefty, like an extreme lefty in the street?
Yes.
I find that the people who are drawn to that mentality of like tear it all down, let's just tear the whole thing down. We should destroy the entire establishment and redistribute all the money. They have nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like people who are 40 with a wife and 3 kids and like stable life, who have done all the right things, are like way more inclined to be like, whoa, let's stop all that noise. Do you know?
So anyway, so in that rant, right now, going into last night when the price of Bitcoin was dropping, it basically, I mean, you see the articles coming out. This came out. This is from October. Okay, this is way older right here. This is, I can't get rid of that pop-up. So this came out 2 days ago, like last night, basically. There's a timestamp here, right? So we did the show with Jimmy Song, I think like 2 days ago or something, the last one. And that's when signaling for BIP 110 has, officially started. I don't know where it is now. I'm trying to find a good fork monitor like this is supposed to be a good fork model, but I'm not really sure what this says. I'm trying to see who is actually signaling, if there are any miners signaling. I want to see proper signaling of the soft fork. And as the signaling for this fork rises, I expect the price of Bitcoin to drop. As the signaling for this starts to taper off and perhaps decline, I expect the price of Bitcoin to rise. Now, I have not mapped and graphed the correlation because I have this chart here, my S&P 500 to Bitcoin correlation. They're not on the same graph. They are one below the other, but I can see that right here on October 27th, the S&P had an all-time high, and so did Bitcoin. Now, October is when the whole knots thing began.
Yeah.
S&P pulls back, Bitcoin pulls back, totally normal. S&P marks a low on November 21st, and here is Bitcoin marking a low on November 21st. It tries to be correlated with the stock market, but the correlation completely breaks right here in early December. Early December is when the first knots BIP was released. That BIP has been changed. It went from 444 to 110. Like Matt, you just said, well, look at this horrible week. Well, what happened last week?
Yeah.
Towards the end of the week, and we can go to the daily chart here, towards the end of the week, on Friday, is when BIP 110, I believe, went live in order for signaling of this temporary soft fork. The temporary soft fork is as temporary as any government measure for a temporary 2 week to flatten the curve, right? The tactics used by this movement are, they don't even see it. They think they're anarcho-capitalism, but the playbook is anything but, okay?
Yeah.
So there is nothing temporary about this temporary soft fork. Just like there's nothing temporary about a temporary government rule or a government measure, okay?
No. It's for your safety, Tone. We're just going to short-term introduction for your safety,
right?
And we'll roll it back.
Here's your collapse in the market as BIP 110 gets rolled out. Again, if you believe that BIP 110 is the savior of Bitcoin in the long term, that could be true. It can be true, right? But in the short term, I'm not 100% convinced because I need a chart to correlate BIP 110 support and BIP 110 adoption and going backwards as far as possible to BIP 144 adoption and BIP 144 support and NOTS support in general. And I really want to see the correlation of NOTS support correlated to the price of Bitcoin. And even if NOTS is the long-term solution for Bitcoin, in the short term, I can't see it not wrecking the price of Bitcoin because speculators and traders and investors will be concerned as to how the fork is going to play out. And I am very concerned as to how the fork is going to play out. And I have my opinions on that. By the way, I'm actually not looking at the live chat, though I probably should. So
I just posted a question. This is what I said at the top of the show.
So again, right. So people are writing the following. The 0.30, like the core release of core 30 is what deviated the market, not NOTS. You can't say that, right? Because the NOTS movement began with the release of core 30. Now you can say the NOTS movement would have never started if it wasn't for core 30. That's fine. But if core 30 was released and all the Bitcoin community was in support of Core 30 instead of divided on Core 30, confidence in Bitcoin would have been at an all-time high. And I believe the price of Bitcoin right now would also be at an all-time high because confidence would be at an all-time high. My personal confidence in Bitcoin, the decentralized protocol, right now is at a multi-year low. But I'm just one guy.
Yeah,
I
mate. No. You're not. You're not just one guy, because you talking about core and knots is making me want to sell all my Bitcoin and fucking put it in the bank.
it's not making me
cash.
want to sell all
You know?
of my Bitcoin, right? But
it's
But
turning me off.
it is
big time.
110% turning me off from recommending anyone buy Bitcoin at the moment. Completely, right? I am tempted to tell my friends and family, I'm sorry, selling above 100 would have been good, but right now it may not be a bad time to take a hedge. And if you've been like saving for a big purchase at some point this year, thinking of buying that thing at Bitcoin over 100, you may want to bite the bullet and buy that thing now, because you don't want to have to be forced to buy that thing when the price of Bitcoin is hovering around 40,000, right? Nobody wants to be forced to liquidate. No one wants to be put in a position where, I've been delaying this optional surgery for like a year, but eventually I'm going to have to do it. I really wanted to do it at a high price of Bitcoin. Maybe I'll wait. You know when you're going to need that surgery mandatory? When the price of Bitcoin is at the low, right? So
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? There's no way I recommend anyone sell all of it, because I could be completely wrong. But my confidence in Bitcoin stability
I
at the moment is
was being
shattered.
hyperbolic.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
being hyperbolic,
right.
obviously. Right? I got nowhere to put it, but yeah, it's not sexy. Anyway, let's just fucking blow through this. I'm getting turned off. What are you seeing in the price? Does price analysis have no relevance when all this is going on?
Well, from a chart perspective, we're looking at the weekly, and the weekly just got completely destroyed. We made it. We almost made it into my resistance zone of 100K. We got as high as 98K. I am very confident that 98K will correlate to something in not support being somehow turned very pro not. And right now we're sitting at the lows, not literally but figuratively. We got a little rally today, and if Bitcoin even gets to 90, I am gonna be making some. I don't want to be too specific. I'm gonna be making some. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Strategic.
I'm going to be making some strategic financial decisions that anticipate a way higher probability of Bitcoin being below 50 than above 100 at any point this year.
Well, we had a question. What comes first, a 70,000 Bitcoin or $100,000 Bitcoin?
At the moment, I am leaning towards the 50 or the 70, whatever low value you want to assign.
70.
Because
70. We'll say 70.
I am actually very concerned that the knots movement will be strong. And the stronger the knots movement gets, the more pessimistic I get on the short to intermediate term price of Bitcoin. Long term, I think Bitcoin will still break new all-time highs in the long term, regardless of whether it's knots or status quo. In the long term, I think Bitcoin will still reach $250,000, regardless of the fork.
Yeah.
But the long term might be later this year or 5 years from now after the next halving. So that's the part that
Cool.
I have no idea. And that's the part that I could only analyze, 3 to 6 months from now, depending on how the support for the temporary soft fork is going.
Just reading a question here. I'm just going to do what I always do and buy a shitload of Bitcoin on a weekly green diamond if that comes to play. And then it's never failed me in the last 2 times it's happened, and it's made me quite wealthy. So I'm just do that. But I don't want to be making a show in 5 years' time talking about will we get to 78,000? We're at 69,000. We've been here for 6 months. The show will end if that's the case. I need some upward trajectory.
So, okay, so I have to try to address this, right? You think we're going down to 40,000 tone. It's not that simple, right? What I'm saying is the current fork divide, split, debate, whatever you want to call it, the current Bitcoin environment has opened up the door to significantly lower prices than I thought were possible at this point in Bitcoin's life cycle. I think that's the best way I can phrase it. I would have never thought, I couldn't think of any reason as to why, if I back up on the charts a bit. This is the monthly chart. When we were making this triangle, when we were having this consolidation and volatility of Bitcoin between 100 and 120 and 100 and 120, and then, okay, it dips. Oh yeah, that didn't even break 100, right? All these candles, 1, 2, 3, 4 months from July all the way into the high in October, and then a pullback from the high. This entire time, there was nothing in the Bitcoin ecosystem that told me that a possibility below the $80,000 low is possible versus 150 and above. The shit started towards the end of October with the release of Core V30 and the knots movement to stop it, to revert it, revert the V30 changes along with other changes that Core has made over the prior 4 years. Now, keep in mind, the changes that Core has made over the prior 4 years led to the price of Bitcoin being at an all-time high in October of last year. So as much as the Knots camp hates all of the changes that Core has made, they can't deny the fact that it led Bitcoin to a $124,000 price. Because if those changes were hurting Bitcoin's price, it would not have gotten that high. Now, since the Knots movement picking up momentum, I now have a fundamental reason for Bitcoin not only going below 80, which I couldn't think of a reason why it would. I now think that it can go as low as 30, because that is technically the last significant swing high. We have some support right here, and this is actually strong support. Let me not scare people. I think 30 is a little much. I think that realistically, as Knots picks up momentum and confidence in Bitcoin as a stable code base deteriorates, 60,000 is absolutely on the table. Right here, the highs of 2021. But I also don't believe that we will have a swift and fast recovery. So it would be more like a very slow bleed down to 60 and a very slow recovery back to 100 before then potentially making another cup and handle. So we could be looking at the next halving for in order to break the 124 high. It is very, very possible. So
Oh my god, I'm turning this chat off. You guys are some of the comments here. You guys are fucking go get a life. It's fucking boring. It's boring.
Basically,
You're boring.
I think 30 is a little much. There's really not much support at 50. But remember, there could also be random flash crashes, right? Kind of like this. So if we look back at this candle here, right? Is the low 50 or is the low 60, right? Yes, the intra candle move is 50, but the candle close is 60. So something like this is possible where we swing back to 50, but the close is 60. But now we're dealing with double bottoms again, which you know I love so much. So I'm just saying that because of everything that's happened since the movement to revert course changes has gained momentum, the price has deteriorated. And in my opinion, this momentum will continue for a while. And therefore, I think my confidence in Bitcoin price will also continue to the downside as the momentum for knots continues to the upside. So someone is
What's the
saying,
measured move?
someone is saying, put your money where your mouth is. I am.
Or it's boring.
I am putting my money where my mouth is. I just said, I said this 10 minutes ago. I would either, if Bitcoin goes to 90, I will be making some financial choices that will be putting my money where my mouth is. And if I see Bitcoin going below 85, I will be making the same choices. I will just have less money.
All we do is put our money where our mouth is. This is the job.
I'm also literally putting my reputation where my mouth is because of this channel.
No, we're getting comments here like, "Oh, Tone, this dork said Bitcoin's going to 1,500. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Jesus.
But
Jesus.
you're here watching, right? Like, it's amazing how, okay, if there is a person that I don't like and that I don't like Paul Krugman, right? Like, I don't listen to Paul Krugman's economic press conferences to complain that he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Like, I go and listen to people whose opinions on economics and markets I respect. If you don't respect my opinion on the markets, why are you here?
You've read George Orwell's 1984, obviously. You know, you need your daily hate. You got to get your hate in. Look, I'm gonna just finish the show off with saying this. I think this is all good stuff. I'm gonna be positive. We put in a high. We're having a pullback. We'll get our weekly green diamond. You buy a heap of Bitcoin, and in 2 years, send me a message thanking me. That's whatever price that may be. It's what I've been saying pretty much for 4 months now since that wave turned red. I stand by that. All right, Tone. I'm
right. Oh, and here we go. Bitcoin is dropping once again now.
I'll say something I'll regret if I stay on the show any longer.
Right there is the top, probably the 10 a.m. reversal. This is the hourly candle. Let's see, 10:10. There's your 10 a.m. reversal. We had a nice rally in the morning. We're hitting 10 a.m. and it's going down. I woke up very surprised because when I was going to bed last night, we can look at the hourly candle. I am almost in the New York time zone. I am in Honduras. Yesterday, here is 6 p.m. And I mean, I don't go to bed that early. I was going to bed over here around 10, 11 p.m. Bitcoin magically rallied from 86 up to 87. I expected to wake up to new lows. I expected to wake up to sub 86. I was very surprised to wake up to 88. And at this point, I want to see it go to 90 so that I could make some future decisions for the next 12 months. I may have to make those decisions at a lower price. And you know what? And if I'm wrong, and Bitcoin rallies to 100, then I will still be happy with those financial decisions because I got some bills to pay the rest of the year myself.
And on that bombshell, thank you guys. I'm sorry I lost my cool a little bit in this show. I've been away. I've been skiing in Korea, living La Vida Loca for a week. I'm not very impressed to have to listen to this bullshit in the comment section, but that's just a very small minority. So I don't mind. It's all good, fun. Hey, we'll see you at the same time tomorrow, and we'll touch base. I think the price is going to go down. But what the hell do I know? Tone.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to review the live comments, and we'll try to address some of them tomorrow. You can also leave those comments below the video description, and I will try to answer them in print. Also, strongly recommend people go and watch our last 2 episodes on Bitcoin Core versus Knots with guests Reardon, who is not pro-core, but has no problem with the removal of op return, and Chris Guida, who is apparently responsible for coding BIP 110. And watch these episodes, with more episodes coming to you from El Salvador, where I will be debating these people in person.
Perfect. Those links are on Tonevase's private channel. So just look up Tonevase. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.